Let's put this up a little bit more. Let that view count go up a little bit. I'm so glad to see everybody that's showing up. Thank you for showing up. Thank you so much. I hope everybody can see me and hear me well. I'm doing this on my laptop, and so I don't have the best video or audio quality, but I hope you can hear me. All right, so people can see me and hear me. Good. I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying this pipe right now. This is a Costello, and I really like Costello pipes, and I've got my mixture 965 in it. And it's just this blend never disappoints. It never disappoints. I have not done a live stream on this YouTube channel in a long time. Most of my live stream stuff is done on Pipe Cottage Social now. But I wanted to do. I actually I recorded 2 videos this afternoon on this topic that this live stream is about, and I didn't post them. I didn't like the way it turned out. Well, and we just y'all wait for a couple more minutes. We've got almost the amount of people listening here that I want to have in the live stream before I start talking about what this video is about. But I'm so very thankful that everybody showed up. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your Friday evening to come and spend a little time with little old me. Although ever since I turned 35, I'm not as little as I used to be. My daddy always told me, said, son, when you hit 35, that metabolism starts to slow down. And buddy, was daddy ever right about that? All right. And now it's going to be a struggle for me to smoke this pipe and talk to you because I so enjoy this blend, my mixture 965. I could almost just sit here and just not talk and just enjoy this pipe for the rest of the evening. That's really the way it's supposed to be done. You're supposed to sit down with a pipe and enjoy it and not have to worry about screens in front of you. But just I'm going to put the pipe down because I really want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Yeah, I like that. I really, really, really do like that. Trevor sounds better. Let's just smoke. No use in talking about anything serious. That's exactly what I would prefer to do. But I'm doing this live stream because I have a topic in mind. And if I don't pay very much attention to the comments for the next few minutes, please forgive me. And I'll get to the chat in just a little bit. But people are wondering, you know, what are my reservations about Trump? And I have a point. I have a large point that I want to get across to you, and I certainly hope that most of you will hang around long enough to hear me out, just to hear me out. And I love doing live streams, and I enjoy smoking a pipe with you. But I do have a topic, and let's carve it up. Let's see what we can get done. Um, no, I'm not going far left about Trump. I'm not going far left about Trump. And I'm watching what people are saying here. No, just listen to me now. Just listen, please, for a little bit. I don't know of many people who are more conservative in the traditional sense than I am. I am very, very conservative. I believe in the principles of the founding generation. I believe in conservatism as defined by Edmund Burke, an Englishman of all people, who was actually defending the American Revolution and opposing the French Revolution when he wrote his wonderful, wonderful book, Reflections on the Revolution in France. Then, folks, most people who watch the Pipe Cottage, they are very intelligent people, and I have no reason to think that anyone who follows the Pipe Cottage is not an intelligent person. I mean, we don't have the followers. We don't have hundreds of thousands of followers. We don't have millions of followers, and that's fine. But we have a wonderful community of people here who are thinking people. They're thinking people, and they're patriotic people. Um, but I watched a video today of Trump talking to several governors, and many of you probably already know this. But the governor of Maine was in the audience, and I'm very slow with how I'm going to be explaining this because I want to introduce this gingerly and correctly. So don't rush me. Don't rush me. If you're interested in what I have to say on this topic, then you're going to have to wait a little bit and let me work through it because I really can't believe I'm even saying some of this. I was watching Trump talk to the governors, and I guess in the White House, and the governor of Maine was there, and she was making her opinion known that she was adamantly opposed to Trump's transgender executive order, making it illegal for men to compete in women's sports and whatever that is. Well, I agree with Trump. And I agree with most conservative Americans who voted for him. The government doesn't have the right to decide that there is more than two genders. There are only two genders, male and female. That's it. But what concerned me was Trump said, well, you basically do what I tell you to do, or I'm going to remove your funding from Washington. We're going to cut your money. Now, as much as I agree morally with what Trump is trying to do, the heart of the American Constitution is federalism. You cannot have a president that says to the governor of a state, well, you do what I want you to do, or I'm going to cut your funding. If the people of Maine want to have 4, 5, 6, 10 genders, that's up to the people of Maine. It has absolutely nothing to do with the people of Kentucky, where I live, or the people of South Carolina, where I am from originally. It has nothing to do with conservative states. If the people of Maine want to do that, then fine. But when you say as a president, well, you do what I want you to do, or I'm going to cut your funding, I'm going to stop you, then that's a problem. If the people of Maine want a different governor, they should vote for a different governor. But they're dealing with the governor that they elected. And so you can't have it both ways. You can't have a federal government that says, well, we are going to make the entire country conservative and all 50 states have to do what we want them to do. You can't do it like that. The heartbeat of the United States Constitution is federalism. I also listened to, please forgive me for just a few minutes. I'm not paying that much attention to the chat, but I can't do that and pay attention to what I'm trying to tell you at the same time. On X, formerly Twitter, on X today, Elon Musk, which is, I think, is a very strange, weird person. He's weird. I don't know what he's up to. I just think that it's weird that he's involved with all of this. He posted a clip from the historian Victor Davis Hanson. And Victor Davis Hanson, I've read his work. I've probably read everything he's ever written, actually. I've got several of his books on my shelf back here. He's a farmer from California, and so he may be a little bit limited in his understanding of American culture in that regard. But he is a renowned historian, and he made a video, and Musk posted it today. And Hanson said, well, the problem with a lot of these liberals is that they are neo-Confederates. He quite literally said that the people who, regardless as to what part of the country you live in, if your state believes that the rules and regulations passed by the federal government are not in favor, are not in the best interests of the people of your state, you're simply a neo-Confederate. And he was chastising the South during the 1820s and the 1830s for nullifying the tariff of 1828. The tariff of 1828 was intended to protect American industry. Listen to me, just hang on a minute, I'm going somewhere. Most people in the South who had money were not interested in buying goods from the industrial states in the North. They were interested in buying their goods from any country they wanted to buy them from. If they wanted to buy English furniture, they bought English furniture. If they wanted to buy plates from China, they bought plates from China. If they wanted to buy spices from the Middle East, they bought spices from the Middle East. What they did not tolerate was a central government in Washington placing a protectionist tariff on the states themselves. The whole purpose of the protectionist tariff, which is no different than what Trump is trying to do now, is to protect American industry, to make foreign goods so expensive that you are forced to buy materials from the United States. You're forced to buy it. That is not freedom. That is a protectionist tariff. And so the state of South Carolina in 1832 said, no, we're not going to do that. And these are my people now. So just these are my people. My people were in South Carolina well before 1832. And I think this is an extremely important principle of American history. South Carolina, under the leadership of John C. Calhoun, who was the vice president under Andrew Jackson during that point in time, said, no, we're not. We're going to nullify this federal tariff. We're going to nullify it. We think this is favoring one part of American society at the expense of another. In other words, this is a protectionist tariff to favor northern industry at the expense of southern agriculture. And so South Carolina drafts a nullification piece of legislation and effectively nullifies the tariff of 1828. And it becomes successful. And what this historian, Victor Davis Hanson, is saying is that this example of nullification is un-American. It is somehow not patriotic. You can't simply say to the federal government, we're not going to abide by this. Well, he's wrong. He is extremely wrong in that regard. And I think that Trump is, frankly, I don't think he understands very much at all about American history. I think he's on the verge, and there's an irony that's going on here. There's an ironic thing happening. An ironic thing happening. The Trump administration is trying to reduce the power of the federal government. But in order to do that, they are increasing the power of the federal government in order to reduce it. They are setting a dangerous precedent. I think that Trump is probably using powers that he does not have. He is trying to, whether he's trying to do it or not, what I see happening over the next 2 or 3 years, and I'm nobody, I don't really know anything other than American history, but whenever this sort of thing happens, you don't decrease the power of the central government, you increase it. I mean, as much as I agree with the fact that there are only 2 genders, you can't simply say to the governor of a state, an elected governor of a state, well, you do what I want you to do or I'm going to cut your funding. That's not federalism. That's exactly what happened for the first 40 years, for the 40 years prior to the American Civil War. That's exactly the type of thing that was happening. And I have been to different history conferences, and I have been chastised repeatedly by saying that civil rights legislation during the 1950s and 60s was a bad idea. It was a bad idea. I had one woman who was really up in my face at one particular history conference. She said, how can you ever say something like that? Well, I say it because of precedent. If the federal government has the power during the 1950s and 60s to tell the owner of a business who they can and cannot allow into their abode, then the federal government then has the power to do far more than what was originally intended. In 2015, the Supreme Court said that homosexual marriage is going to be legal. I remember exactly what was happening during that point in time. If you go back to 2015, we had the terrible shooting in Charleston, South Carolina, where Dylan Roof shoots 9 or 10 people in Charleston, South Carolina, in a church. And all the while this is happening, the federal government, through the Supreme Court, through the judicial branch, is passing legislation which says, yeah, while all this other stuff is going on, while the media is interested in what's going on in Charleston, here's what's actually happening in Washington. We have made it legal for homosexual marriage, which doesn't exist at all. We've made it legal for this to happen. That is the precedent established by increased federal authority since the end of the Civil War. That's the precedent, because law is largely guided by precedent. What happened before in similar situations, civil issues. And so I'm very concerned. And also, so here's what's going on. I see Trump introducing protectionist tariffs. I see Trump infringing upon the rights of the states, regardless as to whether I agree with what those states are doing or not. That's not the point. The point is federalism. He's infringing upon the rights of the states. He's also got an issue with the Catholic Church. This IVF thing. I think IVF is extremely incorrect. It's got a lot of problems. And I am fully in support of Bishop Robert Barron on this, and I'm fully in support of the Catholic Church that the federal government should not be encouraging IVF. I'm also not entirely certain that Pope Francis is wrong in his criticism of the Trump administration's ideas about immigration. Now, that is going to be controversial. There are bad people who have come into this country illegally. I know that. There are bad people who have come into this country, and they have created drug cartels, and they've killed people, and they are bad people. Folks, we have bad people in every county in America. Bad people just don't exist in foreign countries. Bad people exist on every street corner in this nation. My wife's family are immigrants from Cuba. My father-in-law was born in Cuba in the 1960s. He's an immigrant to this country. We shouldn't have a problem with immigration. And I understand that people are trying to create a difference between legal and illegal immigration. That's fine and dandy. But this is going to seem very, very liberal, but that's not what's going on. My own family were immigrants from Europe. Many of your people were immigrants from somewhere else. This is not a new philosophy. This is called nativism. Throughout the course of American history, there has been different periods of time where this philosophy called nativism has come to the forefront of politics. And nativism simply means that if you're not born here, we decide whether you belong here. And I think that is not exactly the proper Christian attitude to have. Richard Weaver was a wonderful man. I've mentioned him a lot. Actually, in our book club, the Pipe Cottage Book Club, we are talking about Richard Weaver at length. He wrote his doctoral dissertation entitled The Southern Tradition at Bay. He's probably most remembered for a book he wrote in the late 1940s, I believe it is, entitled Ideas Have Consequences. And what Weaver once argued is that a culture can only defend itself and continue. A culture can only continue to exist if it's able to defend itself against other cultures that are opposed to it. Now, I am entirely in favor of opposing people who are in contradiction to what we believe. But it's not the job of the federal government to solve all of the nation's problems. And what I'm starting to see now regarding Trump is that there's a large degree of American Christians, primarily Protestants, to be completely honest, because that's what Christianity is primarily in the United States, is Protestantism. There's this powerful notion, this powerful idea going, it's penetrating the country right now, that Donald Trump is the Lord's anointed, that Donald Trump is anointed by God. That's that. I don't believe that's true at all. I don't believe that's true at all. There's this. What we see in Donald Trump is populism, not conservatism. It's populism. It is not traditional American conservatism. Donald Trump has more in common with Alexander Hamilton and Abraham Lincoln than he does Thomas Jefferson and Jefferson Davis. And I tend to believe, and many people don't believe this, I tend to believe that the strain of thought that goes from Jefferson to the Confederacy is more American in the original sense of the term than what we see through Hamilton and Abraham Lincoln. There's this sort of ridiculous issue going on in the country right now. There's this notion that the South is the cause of all the nation's problems. The Republicans worship Lincoln in his attempt to quell the rebellion in the 1860s, and the Democrats, I don't even know where to begin with that. They absolutely despise history of any kind for the most part, and the modern day Democrat Party and the way it believes, essentially, if you want to learn the origins of that, you have to go to the presidency of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, prior to his presidency, there was no real relationship between the federal government and individual citizens within the country. But as a result of the Great Depression, the stock market crash of 1929, FDR creates the Agricultural Adjustment Act, the AAA, the Social Security Administration, the Civilian Conservation Corps, all of these different efforts that essentially employ individual citizens, place individual citizens in the employ of the federal government. And so I think that it's a mistake for people to think that Donald Trump is going to restore America, that he's going to make America great again. I don't believe that anymore. I don't believe that. I think that ship sailed a long time ago. I think what most people really want to see in this country is maybe a return to the 1980s. Maybe a return to a Reagan-style government, even though it was during the 1990s, during the Clinton administration, that the country experienced some of the most significant economic growth it's seen in the past several decades. I don't see Donald Trump as an extremely moral figure. And I think that most evangelical Christians in this country are latching on to Donald Trump in hopes that, well, first of all, they think that God has put him in this position, that he's God's anointed. That's not what I believe. And they think that he's going to fix all of our problems. It's not the job of any president or any government to fix our problems. And it's kind of shocking. It's kind of shocking that most American Christians. I mean, I don't know of any American Christian that did not vote for Donald Trump, Catholic or Protestant. I know there are many that didn't, but I don't know any personally. And so on one hand, you have people who say, well, we chose the lesser of two evils. I understand that. but I've not really developed all the thoughts that I want to share about this. I don't think that I know that Donald Trump probably loves his children and his grandchildren and his wife, but I don't think he's a Christian. Even though he was nearly killed, I don't think he's a Christian. I don't think he's ever really given his heart to Jesus. I don't think that Christianity is a motivating factor when it comes to his decision making and when it comes to his personal life. I don't see that at all. And I know that certain people on social media have said, well, you don't have to be a Christian to be a good president. No, but you don't need a president that you like to be a good Christian either. I think that the Christian world, the American Christianity is placing way more attention on Trump than they are Jesus. This one man, he may be able to do some things for a few years, but he's not going to change the direction of the country. You can legislate all day long, but you cannot legislate morality. You cannot legislate morality. So I've got some concerns. I don't think that his presidency is motivated at all from a Christian worldview, and I think that the evangelical world in this country is going to see that very, very soon. I do not think that he's interested in states' rights or reducing the power of the federal government. Actually, what I see is him willing to wield the power of the federal government, including the executive branch, to implement policies that he thinks the country is in favor of. That may that's fine and dandy, but regardless as to what the policies are, you cannot increase the power of the federal government at the expense of the Constitution. And who is this? Who is this guy on Fox? I forget his name now. The guy's got that big old show on the weekends. I forget his name. He's not really important to my personal life, and so I don't remember his name. But anyhow, uh, this gentleman on Fox News said that Donald Trump is going to be the most consequential president in American history. That he will do more than Reagan did. Well, he may do more than Reagan did, but he's not going to be the most consequential president in American history. It should not matter this much who the president is. That's part of my main point. It should not matter this much who the president is. You know, prior to the 1930s, the only time that anybody ever thought about the federal government was when you got your mail in the mailbox from the post office. But anyway, that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. I've got a lot more that I am watching and paying attention to. But I think that what's going to happen during this administration is contrary to popular belief. And as ironically as it sounds, the power of the federal government is simply going to increase. It's simply going to increase. And nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. We're still living in the country that the Civil War created. Nothing has changed. You either do what Washington tells you to do, or you don't do anything at all. And as much as people think that Elon Musk and Donald Trump is going to alter the course of that historical trajectory, I think that it's already been settled. There's very little that can be done to change that, and unfortunately, this administration so far has done very little to prove me wrong. Very little. Anyway, I'm done. I've said what I needed to say. I'm going to finish my pipe in peace and quiet. If you want to continue this conversation, if this is something that you're interested in, please let me know and I will continue the conversation. But for now, I'm going to go do something different. Thank you for stopping by.